the life of a bail bondsman.
Out free on multiple felony bonds or PR bonds.
Nationwide movement for police and criminal justice reform.
For this bond issue, repeat violent offenders.
Bail talk, we talk bail. Bail talk, we talk bail. Bail talk, we talk bail. Bail City, Red Room, bail talk, we talk bail.
Welcome to Bail Talk. I'm your host, Carter Spencieri, bail agent at Bail City Bail Bonds. My direct line is 970-691-9544. I'm here with our special guest and my two co-hosts. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
This is Mark Spencieri from Express Bail Bonds.
And this is Alex Spencieri from Bail City Bail Bonds. Your turn, Dave.
These are some of my favorite people. I'm David Lovatto, also known as David Carl in the industry. I've been in the industry and out of the industry for years, so I'm kind of a history buff, if anything.
That's right. Well, thanks, everyone, for tuning to another episode of Bail Talk. Dave's been a very close family friend for years. He was a bail bondsman and 80s, right, Dave? 80s, 90s, and...
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
How
late 80s. I was still with. I think it was with them for about 5 or 6 years.
Okay, how did you get into this industry, or how did you discover it, or decide I might want to do this?
Okay, this is a very interesting story. I was getting a bond. I was getting a bond from a gentleman. I don't know if we mentioned names or not, but Frank Ficara.
Okay.
With Anytime. Boy, what a great. These guys are great at any time, just saying. And Frank went to go get me out of a municipality, and I was under an alias.
Municipality?
Municipality.
Okay.
And I was under an alias. And he went in there straight up, just dropped dime on me. He's like, yeah, it's Dave Lovatto here. Like, Dave Lovatto, we have this alias, this other guy. So, yeah, they popped me. And then I went away. So... afterwards, I went to Frank and I was like, wow, you knew better. I even told you. And he just, whatever. I mean, the guy was busy anyway. I know he was under some stress, but he cleared it up. He said, you know what? Why don't you come over here and work in the office with me? And I did. And the rest of that was history. I fell in love with the industry. It was good to be in it. It was good to watch. Good to be part of. I got to see a lot of resourceful and ingenuitive things happen. I mean, throughout the years now, looking back, it's a different animal right now. So
The game's changed quite a bit, huh, Uncle Mark?
yeah.
Oh, it's a different world now. Yeah, that was the good old days,
Yes.
80s and 90s.
It's when you can go under an alias and not be caught because there was no internet. Frank. Just saying.
He did that on purpose.
Dave had a habit of driving too fast, if I remember right.
Yeah, that was my biggest crime. I went away for habitual traffic offender. Look it up on your internet.
Doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, I don't think they charge people. I think they just make them go to class now.
Yeah,
It's
There
not.
used to be a $3,000 bond in Weld County, but that got eliminated.
It was a class 5 felony back then. I had to go to the big house. People would say stuff like, "Well, what are you in here for?"
You had to lie to him.
Driving a lot.
driving too fast.
I enjoyed it, and I had a sports car. Yeah, so it was Jeffco. It's another story. Jefferson County, notorious on laying down the law. So it was really good. It was really good to deal with that county for everything. Every single law there is. Yeah.
All right. Well, so you were in bonding 80s, 90s.
Yep.
What was the coolest part of being a bail bonds in that time, being a bail bondsman at that time, and working in the bail bonds industry?
Well, let's get it. I want to make sure that I set the record straight. I was never really officially a bail bondsman. I make sure I would do the bonds. I would certify them, make sure that everybody was in the up and up, and then I just turn over to Dave or Frank, and they would take it over. So
you'd process their bonds.
I
You'd get them ready. Would you underwrite the bonds?
No.
Kind of like an office manager back then, right?
Yeah, it was more like an office manager, and I think the laws were different back then. You couldn't do that today.
Right.
From what I understand, it's a lot different. Back then, they just had me processing bonds. I was interviewing people, calling them, verifying employments and whatnot, job histories and all that good stuff. Again, before the internet. So this took time. It wasn't like you could just, verify somebody's employment by a couple of keystrokes. You got to be on focus. You got to really be able to look behind the curtain, see what was going on, and be able to process that legitimately. Fortunately, I had a talent of discernment, so I did, I think, avoid a lot of problems. I was able to see through some of the BS and get everything rolling.
Back in that day, the late 80s through some of the 90s, people would go to court and get advised, and then the mom and the brother and the girlfriend would walk over to our offices. We'd be handing clipboard applications to mom. All right, who's going to sign? Who's got the job? All right, fill this out on yourself. And, so you would be handing a clipboard to mom, whoever's going to sign, say, fill this out. And
yeah.
Okay, Dave, whoever.
Some of it was like that. I mean, a lot of it was, you get the phone calls. I was doing everything. I was going over to the courthouse and getting the clipboard from the person wanting to get out. I was receiving phone calls in the office and processing the bond that way. Some people were just walk-ins. So it just depended, And back then, like I said, the rules weren't as stringent as they are today, so it was a little different.
Delaware Street was busy, huh?
Oh man, Delaware Street was hopping. It was like Vegas. It was like being on Vegas. So that's where all the neon lights were flashing. People were constantly coming in and out. And I was known by David Carl back then, so everybody knew me by a different name. So that's what my DBA was, David Carl.
His DBA.
And you guys had to man those offices 24/7. Like someone had to be there all the time, right?
Yeah, and in those offices, they were the little houses from the
Bail Bonds Row.
Bail Bonds Row, and the little houses were like 1901, built like late 1800s, and most of the bail bondsmen would make their own little upstairs shanty so they could spend the night.
We called them nests.
With the Radio Shack
A
intercom. Remember that?
Oh my God! Yeah, do I remember pressing the buzzer, let people in? It was in our building. It was a Love Shack. What?
You getting love from
there
who?
There was no love.
The dog?
Bonded Row.
You're talking about that song.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was really to be honest, thinking back, we had a heck of a lot of fun, and it's talk about finding a job that had a passion. We had passion for that type of industry because we were enjoying helping people. We got to know families that were decent folks, and you get to meet them on the outside. So outside, just wandering around, people go, "Hey, David Carl, how are you? Thank you for getting my son out." People I even knew at my church would come up and thank me, and I didn't even know that I had their son or whatever on bond, So that was pretty cool. We really enjoyed it. It was a very different time, like I said. Nowadays things are a little bit more tight, I guess. I don't know how would you say it. There's so many rules, regulations, red tape. You have to follow everything by the book. Back then it was a little loose. I think even to become a bondsman, what were there, 5 questions?
Oh, it was much more simple. Now it's under...
If it was 5 questions and you were not a licensed bail bondsman, you got a problem.
You had a felony.
Yeah.
That's what mine was. I couldn't do it because I had a felony. So if that helps clear up some of the reasons why.
Okay, I was just going into like 5 questions, 5 IQ. Like, what's one was it?
What's wrong, Dave?
I think it was like 20 questions, wasn't it? But the questions actually applied to bail bonds and stuff. And now it's a property and casualty training and class, and you learn some about bail bonds.
Not much.
And in my case, it was because I had looked into it many times. I've always had a very big idea that someday I would just go take the test. And I think it was 13 years as a convicted felon. You had to wait 13 years without any other crimes before you can.
We should air quote the convicted felon. I mean, everyone speeds in their car, right?
Everybody. Yeah, put them all back in jail. Hey, you speeders, slow down.
What two questions. What was your favorite story about riding on the famous bail bonds row, and then the funniest story about being on the row over there in the prime time of that thing?
Well, the most I could say one of the strangest stories that I have was when there was an incident, I would say, in a bonding company that I worked for. I will not mention any names. And I came outside to go run across the street to take some paperwork to the court. And I saw these two guys in a Chevy with mirrored glass, those sunglass aviator glasses that are mirrors. And I went and I leaned in there and I said, "You two guys look like you could be federal agents." And sure as shit, they were. The guy jumps out and he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm Agent so-and-so." And they were all nervous after I said that. The other guy goes, "Yeah, I'm so-and-so." And evidently they had some warrants for some of the agents on Bonding Row. They thought it was from that office, and I wasn't. So anyway, that was one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me. I just walked up and said that. "Hey, you guys look like you're federal agents." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm." It was like, "Oh, shit, we're busted. How can you be in disguise dressed like that right in that area?" It was too funny.
Yeah, you can't stump a bail bondsman, right?
No, not at all. I'll tell you what, some of the other, the funnier stories that we had was, going out and I was also part of, going out and catching folks who had jumped. And surveillances were fun. Sitting in your butt for 12, 13 hours and eating junk food and smelling the other guy's farts and getting mad at each other. Wanting to draw your weapon and go, you fart again, somebody's going to die around here.
I like the jokes better than the farts. We try to keep the farts on minimum, but I like just laughing. It sucks, right? Having to do that stakeout, but there's memories to be made, laughing and carrying on. And
there's countless stories. With your dad, John, for both you guys, when your dad and I had some fun, we went out to Mesa College, and we went into this. I think it was like a $10,000 or $100,000 bond. It was supposed to be a simple grab. Your dad's called me up and said, "Hey, man, come with me."
That's how it always starts. The simple. This one's going to be easy.
He said, "Oh, this is so easy, Dave. We're just going to go down there, give you some money and you can help me out." I'm like, "Oh, no problem, John. Let's go." We go down there. We find the guy in the ladies' dorms. Got our way into the dorms, and he's like, "How are we going to get in this door?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm thinking, just knock. So I knock, and the guy goes, "Who is it?" And I go, "It's Dave, man." like the old Cheech and Chong bit. Like, "It's Dave, man. Open the door. Hurry up before they catch us." Because you're in the ladies' dorm, right? You don't want to have security running up on you. And the guy goes, "Who?" And I said, "It's Dave." "Come on, man." I go, "I've already been here 3 times. Open the door." So the guy opens the door. Sure enough, it's the defendant. And John and I go in and we jump him, and he starts just banging away at us, banging away. He's just fighting for his life. And your dad had assured me that this was a simple domestic violence. One time, guy was going to go to court anyway, just got cold feet, no big deal. Well, it turns out, unbeknownst to us, he had a murder charge and had evaded the police in Kansas City, so he was up for murder. We didn't know this. I'm thinking this guy's fighting a lot for, being in trouble for smacking his wife around or whatever. So your dad, he had grabbed, I don't know if it was a broom handle, bat, something, and your dad pulled out his weapon. And when he drew on him, he threw the weapon towards the defendant.
Some like low sugar shit.
And I'm sitting next to your dad, next to John. I'm going.
And you've seen it in slow motion, right?
I think it was I could have reached out and just grabbed it. It felt like, but it was going real slow. I'm like, holy crap! And it passes. I think even the defendant dude was like watching, like, what the fuck? So we all dove for this thing.
The dog pile.
And we're all fighting, like it's like fingertip away. And it's like we're fighting and fighting. I felt like I was fighting for like an hour. It must have been like 2 minutes, maybe a minute. But we were just smacking on him and smacking. Finally, we got the weapon and put him in custody. And then when we took him downstairs, I was like, dude, you're really putting up quite the struggle for this. This is crazy. You didn't have to put up such a fight, blah, blah, blah. He got a little bloodied. You know, it was 2 of us against him. And then when the sheriff showed up, they go, yeah, he was wanted for murder. I'm like, holy shit. They wouldn't let us take him.
Yeah.
We were going to take him down to Denver. And the sheriff says, nope, he's wanted for murder. I was like, holy cow. So you never really know what you're going to get. It kind of goes hand in hand with all law enforcement. When you go out on somebody, you don't know what's going to happen to you.
And
so
people will skip court on the stupidest things too. I mean, there was that. Was he there for that one guy where there was the birthday party and we arrested him? It was me, you, for sure, Bernard, Shalom. He had to have been there.
Was it the one where there was a motorcycle gang and I had taken my girlfriend?
No, that was a different. That was with.
that was Sons of Silence, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it was $100 bond that Mike had written,
Yeah.
and his girlfriend had a black sheer blouse that everybody just stared at, and we cuffed the guy up and left. And then we realized later, I think we would have gotten killed if they weren't staring at her her beautiful blouse. And then your dad's Jeep tire got punctured. When he got out of jail the next morning, he got a dead tire, and so it was a $100 bond that we went after for Mike, and it was a $100 tire.
That was crazy. When we went
Make
in,
Monkey pay for it?
I don't think so.
Oh, come on.
Well, the funny thing for me was I didn't even realize that it was going to be all that. I thought it was a bigger bond because there was you, me, Bill. There was 5 or 6 other people. And it was like a group of us. And then when we arrived, I'm like, oh, look at all these. Oh, this is the Sons of Silence. There's a whole motor. But
it was some bunch of bikers, whatever it was.
Whoever it was. And they were, but whatever had happened the night before told the story because when we walked through that front door with weapons and we were all vested up and everything, everybody was out, passed out, drunk, falling down. There's women sprawled everywhere. There's coke and booze and everything just laying around. And we grabbed our guy and boom, out the door we went. They followed us for a little bit, but they didn't pursue it. I think you were standing there holding your weapon, telling them, you don't want to get thrown in jail for this one. And I was like, geez, $100
Some different rules.
Yeah,
wow.
That was a really long time ago. Yeah, we would just be hanging out, and someone would have a bond forfeiture, and let's go drive by this address and see. And,
yeah, I used to love that. I used to love to be able to, the surprise of it all, not really knowing what you're going to go up against and have that kind of crazy stuff happen.
The buffets afterwards.
Well,
those
happened when these guys were growing up. Uncle Mark would say, let's go to the buffet.
Well, you do a reward dinner, right? Well, for example, we got our guy in Louisiana. Guess where we stopped? Casino.
Oh, nice.
It is his birthday. And that's what you do. You catch it when you put in work. You will reward yourself.
Celebrate, sure.
So, but no, that's a cool story. But I was trying to find one where I guess you weren't really around that much, but all 3 of us were on. Was he on that? Where Jim was the flying mop top? You were there, right? Or no?
No, that was Bernard and Jim were in the building, and me and Alec were in the car because Bernard was getting impatient.
Sleeping. We wake up at 5 o'clock. We leave the tech center, pick everyone up. We were there at the building by 6 because he worked as a custodian for the maintenance guy for the building. He had a room downstairs next to the boiler room. That's where the janitor lives, right?
Right.
And they're waiting for him, and me and Uncle Mark are outside.
You weren't even, were you a bondsman then?
No.
Okay,
yeah. I'm 18, 19, just barely a couple arrests, so this is exciting. And we're all tired. Jim's up, they had there's a glass wall, right?
You could see all 3-4 floors were glass. You could see in the building.
And they had a garden level basement, so you could kind of see. And we're sitting there probably for an hour, and we're all tired. And I didn't see anything at the basement level. We did not see anything.
Bernard got impatient.
Yeah,
and Bernard wanted to go look for some clues. Now Bernard and Jim aren't with us anymore. They've passed away. So these are our brothers from previous time. And so Bernard gets impatient. We're like, let him go look around.
finds a couch. He calls it the deep dish, and that stuck with me. That's what I said. The red chairs are deep dishes. That's the hey. You can't be mad. I was sleeping. That was a deep dish couch. So Jim starts running after this guy in the basement. He's trying to cuff him on the stairs.
Bernard's asleep in the couch.
And this is how Jim said it.
And me or Alec are outside. It's about 5 degrees. And we're like, what are they doing? All of a sudden, we see Jim's hair. They're running so fast. Jim's hair is standing up behind
the mop top just, whoo, and we're like, what the fuck was that? And then we see little Bernard chasing after. We're like, all right, it's go time. So we get in there and we get him. They had him all handled. They had him handled. But
the guy fought like an animal, though. He would not give an arm up. I think it was probably good we got in there because the manager of the apartment building was yelling at him to stop fighting, and you can't ask Jim anymore. But if you had asked him, he figured this guy would come by and do something to us after fact.
Well, that guy tried to give me and Bernard the spooks. Tried to stare us down on the way to jail. He was gonna do this. He was gonna do that, and Jimbo got all shook. He's gonna burn down the office. He's gonna burn down the office.
The guy did that growl. Some of these people act, or maybe they could be possessed by something. It was a creepy sound. I mean, he's either a real good actor or has some evil spirits to him. Very possibly.
Speaking of which, do you remember that one guy that you got, and we had to take him up
to the mountains, right?
Yeah.
That was he was wishing curses on all of our families.
I hope all of your families die of cancer, and their eyes get cancer, and he was gurgling and making weird noises.
That was another one of those possessed evil guys.
How was it scary listening to him? I like, shut up, dude.
We just told him we'd pray for him. It's like, dude, well, no, seriously, it was like wishing kindness. Our kids would. I hope your kids end up being handicapped. And I was like, dude.
I mean, he was just going off in so many.
He thought he was going to jail for life, didn't he? I think he got a year. It was a drug case.
Yeah, he kept saying, "I have $50,000 in
here." He did. He did have a cash full of money because he was a professional gambler.
Yeah,
he wouldn't even look at his.
Just take it. Let me go. Of course, being the sound businessman and honest bondsman,
took him to jail.
We just went, screw you. Just took him to jail. Turned it in.
He had a backpack full of money.
But the sheriffs that year had a good year. No,
he had a lot of Reese's cups and ramens.
I've had so many other friends and felons tell me about so much money's being absconded by the law enforcement. And I'm just like, well, I love law enforcement. They've been there for me in many ways that I cannot even begin to describe. And, we can only hope that those kinds of things don't happen. But in this industry, it happens. And it happens a lot. Thank God the Colorado Bureau of Investigations has their eyeballs out on that kind of behavior. I'm sure they do the same thing with the marijuana folks.
Yep.
And there's only one way to survive in here, as long as your father and Mark did, and that's just play on the up and up. You always end up getting ahead of the game anyway when you play by the rules. But it's exciting to have people go, hey, look at all this money I have here. And you're like, I've never seen that except in TV. In movies, I've seen suitcases of money. But yeah, when I was at any time, that had happened a couple times. And of course, they played by the rules as well.
My first question is, what do you think that bail bonds is still important today as it was in the 80s and 90s, ensuring people go to court and monetary bail? I mean, does it still have a place here in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the division between the rich and the poor, that gap is just growing. There are people out there who don't deserve. All right, let's take my case, for instance. Habitual traffic offender. I didn't deserve, by today's standards, to do time in the state penitentiary. I didn't hit anybody. I didn't run into anybody. I didn't cause any property damage. I just had a sports car and I liked to speed. That was my deal. And they would have made more money off of me by going to school like they're doing with folks today than now. I mean, but had I not had an opportunity to get out and prep my case it would have been better. For me, I didn't even think of it like that, but today I do. And it often runs across my mind that there are folks out there that really do not get an opportunity to present their case appropriately without giving them that chance to figure out who they want to represent them. Cases are complicated. Everybody's is different. They're as unique as your thumbprint. You know, everyone's different. And it's just like the other rules that we have in this country for homelessness or addiction or, every story is its own universe. You cannot vet what's going on in this world right now with crime and the ability to get out of the judicial system without getting railroaded unless you have the opportunity to look into it. Now we have the internet. We're able to, the common guy who can at least read can go in and go, type in Colorado law for, I don't know, habitual traffic offense and figure out where he's at and figure out what he needs and figure out how to set up his case. People didn't have that opportunity before. And now to just take that ability and let these people loose, it sounds awkward, but the reverse is happening. They go, oh, well, then I don't have to prepare. They're just going to let me go anyway. They don't know what's coming. They don't know what's coming up from the background. They don't know that they should be taking it serious. It really does take a dose of insincerity, I think, and it covers the whole judicial system. People, I have family members who've been in the judicial system as probation officers and whatnot, and they can even tell you when you get off on personal recognizance bonds, you look at it like it's, oh, they trust me.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's people out to get you. You forgot what the date was. You weren't sure. At least with a bail bond, there is a reason why you need to go back.
Yeah.
You're tied monetarily or with some type of property or whatever. You don't want to lose that.
Right.
It's just like the system's telling you, oh, don't worry, we just believe you. Go ahead and take off. I know that sounds odd and peculiar, but you would be amazed at how many people who are uneducated folks or just unaware that take that feeling and go for it and just go dance. And those are the guys that we complain about. Why didn't they call? Why didn't they find out who we are, where we're at? Well, because they were given this idea that it wasn't that important to look into, maybe.
A bond isn't how do I want to say this? It's not a necessity. Getting out of jail is not a necessity, is kind of what that is where if it's not a right. I should say it's not a right to get out of jail. Like you need to, put up or shut up. And, if you get this PR bond because you think people became, hey, this is my right to get out of jail, a PR bond. And I think that kind of sums up what we were talking about a little bit more.
What about the people that end up with these judges that they're in Denver, Jefferson County, they get a second-degree assault, $25,000, cash only. No bond, the bondsman can't help you, cash only. And the judge is discriminating the bondsman. They just really, that guy can't get out now for maybe a silly, maybe a bar fight or, whatever, second-degree assault. But when they do that to someone and they don't let them use a bail bonds, it's like, this guy's not going to get out to keep his job.
Right.
He might not have the means, or maybe his family doesn't have the means, and we see that nowadays too with the, PR bonds are here. We have cash-only bonds over here. And I could see that ruining someone's life too.
Yeah, that kind of is where I wanted to take the first conversation was that, if you don't have an opportunity to cover yourself by having the time to get the right representation or whatever, and it's because you were bound by funds. I'm working Taco Bell or I'm working a gas station and, this guy came in, he swung at me, I hit him, he went down. Now I'm getting accused for something that I didn't start or whatever, or other people saw it differently than it really happened. I know this is the age of the camera And many times, many cases have been turned around because of those cameras being there in buildings and in front doors. But honestly, the ability to pay for that bond could mean your entire world. There's people out there that are struggling right now.
So, well, I think fair and reasonable bail is important, and our system is flip-flopping. You don't have to go into all the details, but you know of a crime that was very serious, and luckily the judge set a significant bond. I believe it was $100,000. Now, Denver could take those charges, and you can give any details you choose to or not. Denver has given personal recognizance bonds on charges that serious. And now the victims of that crime would have been in fear had that person been released. You know, it's a bond that could have been made if someone was significant, job, it could be posted. I think it was only $100,000, but the guy didn't get out because the people knew he was a career criminal and the charge was very serious. I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of it or not, but I think the victims had some comfort knowing that that person wasn't out, and Denver could give that person a free bond and let him out, and that would have been, I think,
the
unfair
climate
to
we
the
have
victims.
today. That's the climate right now is
Yeah.
low bonds, PR bonds.
Get them out.
And that'd be a shame if that was some sort of something.
Some
around
of
that
it has
nature.
to do with the COVID, the pandemic. That's where it all started. Slightly before then, I think it's 2013 is when the bonding law changed. Is that
Well,
right?
they've been moving towards let everybody out for lower and less and for free.
Yeah.
But they've taken COVID and exploited it some to really almost make it a law without passing a law. But the case I'm referring to, there's victims, and it was a very significant crime,
Oh, yeah.
burglary and stuff. And so thank God the guy sat there, and he was convicted. He could have posted a bond, but nobody chose to pay it. And we're talking,
Are you referring
Well-
to the
well-
one that happened at my place?
Yeah,
your house.
Well, real quick, Dave.
I don't know if
do
you want
you
to
think-
elaborate on any
That's
details.
fine.
Well, I'm going to be vague. Do you think if that somehow he got his bail posted, that guy that did this awful event, do you think he would have went to court?
No, I don't think he would have.
That's what I would say too.
Yeah, so I guess, well, to be clear, and so that we're not speaking in vague terms here, 10 years ago, I had an home invasion at my home, and I'm raising my granddaughter. My granddaughter and I are living in this house by ourselves. She's at the time, I think, 8 years old, and she's sleeping in a bunk bed in her room. I'm hearing some noise. I walk to the back of the house thinking I have the dryer on. I look over. I'm in my skivvies, and there's this naked guy, this naked African-American guy in my baby's room reaching for her. She's on the top bunk. Now, I have a loaded gun. It's in my room, but I'm not thinking, oh, wait, I better go get my gun. I run towards that room, throw him up against the wall. I start choking him out. He's flipping me around. I'm screaming, stranger danger. My granddaughter jumps down. This guy grabs me, finally starts choking me out. I'm starting to pass out, and he's telling me stuff that's like, you're going to die. This is your last day on earth. Stuff like that. Really
Wasn't he
weird.
doing the demon talk?
Yeah,
He was kind of
doing
possessed, right?
Exactly. Well, later on they found that he was smoking meth and
Was it spice?
yeah, no, it was bath salts. So
Bath
it was
salts.
Flocka or something. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, this was a long time ago. He had a prior. He had just gotten out for 7 years. He did a 7-year stint for drugs, I guess, and he went out, got his first paycheck, and then he got high, and he went to Denver Health, and he got some of his meds. He overdosed on that, and then he ended up trying to break in all the houses in the block. And then he broke into our door, fortunately or unfortunately, and I got to fight for my life for 15 minutes with this clown. And then after all said and done, he got 32 years, attempted sexual assault on a child, attempted murder on a child, attempted murder on me, breaking and entering, etc., etc. The charges were all over the place. But yeah, had he gotten a
Personal recognizance
yeah,
bond.
who knows what he would have done. I bet you dollars to donuts, he would have probably gotten high again and put someone else in a very bad situation. So like I said, referring back to how I firmly believe in the law enforcement, criminal justice, I'm for the system. I don't know how we're going to paint this, but it is up to us as individuals to be mindful of what the need is now. And I think the need of putting people out on personal recognizance bonds without doing the research and finding out where they're at. And I'm talking about more than just a record. Is there some kind of, people evaluate people today. Oh, let's give an evaluation, see if they're fit or whatever. Is there an evaluation we could slap together to see if this person's going to be violent? Should we let them go? I've heard of stories where people go into gun stores to buy a gun and the owner's going, well, what are you going to use it for? Well, I'm going to shoot people. And the owner's going, well, then you're not buying my guns. and that's how forward some humans are. They'll just say, yeah, I'm going to go do this again, or I'll hurt somebody again. But those questions are never asked.
And that guy that came to your house was trying to shove the knife into you, right?
Oh, he did. He stabbed me in the head.
Well,
and you were fighting with everything.
And
you
these
had.
public defenders coach them kind of what to say as far as getting a lower or personal recognizance bond, where it's so scripted so well. You hear the same story over and over again, just a little bit different variables. It's like the Mad Libs. Okay, the name is different.
It's cookie
He works
cutter.
different. Yeah, definitely cookie cutter.
There is a new law that just started, I think July 1st, wasn't it? The mental health thing, where if you have any kind of mental health problem, they change the rules for you and give you a PR bond. And I don't know if that would apply on your guy, because I think he had some issues.
Yeah, he did.
But to let someone out on burglary, attempted murder, attempted sexual assault on a personal recognizance bond, I don't care what problem he has, there needs to be a bond of some amount that's serious, so that there's a buffer where unless someone steps, and no one did.
It's a third party.
Let me ask this question, because of my ignorance, you'll have to pardon me, but doesn't the district attorneys used to, in Denver, be able to have some leeway in what was requested for bail bonds?
The district attorney can fight and ask for a larger bond, but
They get overruled.
The Colorado legislature has told the judges, use the least amount of bail as necessary. This COVID has exploited this whole easy peasy criminal justice system. And if you watch an arraignment courtroom, you would be shocked and concerned for your safety if you watch what they're doing. I'm down for fair and reasonable bail, but not free bail, particularly for violent crimes. It's just not fair.
Right. So true.
Bail City Bail Bonds, Colorado's premier bail bonds agency. Give us a call today, 970-378-7878. All righty, continue our show. Nick has stepped in here real quick. We're going to continue talking to Dave, and we're having a good time. I'm really glad you came out here. I'm having a blast. More, I call them bail tales, I guess. A bail bond story. You got anything else for us that's pretty good, pretty funny?
And I was thinking about, there's so many stories, and I'm sure they'll slip through the cracks here and there, but I have to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
This a lot of the things that I went through were in the 80s, so
things are different back then.
Things are different back then. And nowadays, people take things a little bit more sensitive, and
For sure.
we have, folks who want to be, recognized and not provoked in any way. So I think some of my stuff might.
Do you remember the price slashing? Were you around for that?
No, but it sounds funny. What is it?
Oh, do you just remember when everyone's doors and numbers were? You were around for that day and age?
I remember that. If he was like, we'll do bonds for free.
Was
as long as you do a mow our lawn or whatever. Come and mow our lawn. We'll do your bond. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I remember that. Price
Then it went back up because things weren't working out. They were just trying to get way too competitive there on the bail bonds.
Where were you with that, Mark? Were you slashing prices?
No, I really didn't. I might have made the newspaper, the Westward, over the incident, though, because Dog's sister was lowering the prices, and we had a little meeting to try to, let's don't cut it down to zero, and I made a little joke about something, maybe a Molotov cocktail or something. So the Intelligence Bureau came and badged me and said, well, are you
serious?
Did you, you said this. Were you joking? I'm like, oh, God, yeah, I was just joking. That's the same guy that actually probably, 10 years earlier had badged me because of an attorney that was next to our office. He didn't like bail bondsmen at all. And I drank my coffee with a lot of sugar and creamer. So I had a 1-gallon Ziploc bag full of sugar in my file cabinet, and his staircase looked down to my file cabinet. So he called, and, some bondsmen in our history have done dumb things and criminal things. I'll own that for them. So they come in, I'm like, oh, these bums, I'm going to have to get collateral from them, scruffy beard and all this, and their badges popped out, and I'm like, whoa, what? And wow. We don't need a warrant because it's in plain sight there that on the file cabinet suspected cocaine. I was like, oh, wow. That's my coffee, creamer, and sugar right there. Go ahead and check it out. And I think they were kind of embarrassed because I would see the undercover. This black dude would be out doing undercover work, and I'd see him at the gas. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? Remember me, the bondsman? And I think he was kind of embarrassed because he busted me for my coffee creamer. But, I was a little scared because I thought they were, kind of like transients. I was going to have to refuse their bond, and then their badges came out. They were pretty real looking.
That's too funny.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so as you're well aware, we have to drive to places to catch fugitives and whatever. The longest drive you ever been on?
I think it was to Kansas.
You had to go to Kansas to pick someone up?
Yeah, we had to go to Kansas. That was with your dad again.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very far, but if you've ever been on a surveillance or had to drive anywhere with your dad for any amount of time, it was pretty far. It was torture.
It's a lot of iced teas.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I haven't done that one.
Yeah, you will. Eventually you'll find a partner or whatever, who's somebody's you love to work with. It's just sitting in that small cab for that amount of time. You'll be like,
trust me, I know.
Did you guys catch the guy in Kansas?
Yeah.
That's the
one we put in the containment portion of our vehicle to bring them home.
Let's just call it the cage.
Let's call that it's the trunk cage. That's funny when you open up the trunk and there's like a little person inside. Let me out of here. No, it wasn't like that. But yeah, it was similar.
That's a long drive, particularly with a fugitive. They're crying and complaining and
kicking
negotiating and kicking the back of your. So you got to do a little leg iron, sit on kick your dashboard.
Luckily, you didn't get pulled over.
Oh, that would have been hilarious because that would have been a kidnap charge if it really did happen. But no, you just don't do that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. I arrested a guy with Alec, and we had him. We were going into Jefferson County, and they don't let you drop him off upstairs anymore. You got to go into the Sally Port, mess around down there for a while. This guy we had was getting crazy. The closer we got, the crazier he got to the jail. And he was sitting in my back seat of my truck, and we had him strapped in really good, and Alec goes to buzz in the intercom. I'm like, okay, what are you doing moving around? I keep looking, to the back of the mirror. Like, what are you doing? All of a sudden, I'm trying to grab him. He's trying to get sideways. He's like, I'm going to kick your back window. I'm going to kick your back window out. Jefferson County's going, what agency? What are the charges? We might let you in. We're thinking about it. And I'm like, you got to hurry up. This guy's going to break my back window. And we finally pull in there. And 6 deputies come running out, and they're trying to pull him out of the back of my truck, and he's fighting and screaming, yelling bloody murder, and they finally pull him out of there. And Luckily, they took care. We didn't have to book him because he was so crazy. They did the rest of it for us. But yeah, we drove out of there. I was looking at my back seat. I was like, okay, did anything get damaged? But sometimes they do get crazy, and it's like, hey, we put up the money. You were supposed to go to court. That was the deal. You broke the deal when you missed court. Don't be mad about this part of the deal.
Yeah.
'Cause you knew going in.
That's when you get close to the jail. I mean, they'll resist until you get them handcuffed. When you get to the jail and you're trying to walk them in, that's when they try to think about how they're going to knock you out and run.
Yeah.
Or whatever their plan is. That's their last
This is
effort
my
before they get
last-ditch
in the
effort.
building.
I'm going to do Jason Bourne on him. You'll see.
Oh, and they try it sometimes.
It's like, sometimes they're wearing a cargo pant with 100 pants. You think you searched him 100 times.
Yeah, for right now, currently, I tell whoever I'm hunting with, if you're gonna front cuff, search first. That's the only way I'm okay with them being front cuffed.
I'm never okay with front cuff. Never.
Yeah, I had a Denver police officer when I took a guy in. He got kind of mad at me, and probably justifiably so. And he just explained, he's like, sorry I got mad at you, but my partner got killed. The guy choked him. Yeah. Like, you can't do that.
That's the
And
same
I'm
thing. Same thing. The officers told us. You can't do that. And
yeah, with handcuffs on it, they're almost stronger.
Yeah.
And
they have a weapon.
When they're desperate, whether it's justified or not. And I'm like, okay, this guy's not just trying to be jerky with me. I was probably low 20s, and he cared. When you lose your partner, that's that affects you. Also, when I went bounty hunting with a dude named Keith. I won't mention his last name just because. Anyway, I went bounty hunting with him. I was so new, like Alec when he was 18, never been bounty hunting before. We went into a guy's house, and it was Mr. Joe Blow mortgage guy or something. But the guy started going for his bed. He said he wanted to grab his pills, but the guy that went with me had been in it, with his father for years, stomped on his foot and told him no. He, stopped it. He's like, if he grabs a gun and blows your brain out, because I'm kind of a guy that might have a gun by my bed at night. And I'm like, okay, that's a good point, because what's on people's beds? Weapons, things like that. And I'm like,
Bible.
okay.
Nightstand.
Next to your gun.
I'm like, you're right.
You're
The guy
an
was
American.
whiny. And it's true. You got to take control of the situation. Once you get your hands on them, it's control and safe. Keep everybody safe, them and you and your partners.
Do you remember that absolutely huge, gigantic mammoth of a man that we went to go get?
In Wheat Ridge? We got Alec his little BMW.
Yeah.
What did it take? 2 pairs of handcuffs?
No, it took the leg shackles that you couldn't even put handcuffs around his wrist. He was so huge. What was so funny was it was one of those situations. Just come with me. It's a quick, dirty one. We're just gonna go grab this guy. No big deal. I'm like, cool, Mark. Whatever you say, it's fine. So I go. He goes, you go get the back door. I'll get the front door. I'm like, okay. So he's pounding on the one door, and then the back door. That's usually where they run to. This dude, towering. I mean, like you, I'm not some huge guy, but this dude towered over me. I don't know, towered over Mark.
Probably 6'7", 350.
Easily 350. The guy he couldn't even get out of the door without going sideways and getting out of the door. And I was just grateful he was a nice guy, because that guy could have just.
I think he cried.
I was like, please don't hurt me, sir. He could have just put his finger on me and dropped me. But here's what's so funny. You said, I have to cuff you. And then you try to put the cuffs on him. Wouldn't even fit on his wrist. And then I said, well, do you have any ankle shackles? And and you run to your car and you bring, the ankle shackles have extra chain so they can walk. But they're bigger around the circumference for the cuff. So this dude had ankle shackles around his I've never seen that have to happen. But that guy was so huge, man. I was like, thank God he was friendly. Because I couldn't imagine if we would have had to fight that guy.
I always wondered what it would be like to have to undo the leg shackles on the wrist. Like,
that's what it's like, man. It was crazy. It's just it's unusual to just witness. Because these things are for their legs and they're going around their pants.
Exactly.
I thought the information on the warrant was wrong. I'm like, what the way is this big? Is this the Green Giant?
And then you take the tiniest guy you could find, me.
Or me.
Oh, I get these 2 ankle biters. We'll go, gnawing his ankles for you. You hit him high, Mark. Jump up, do the trick. No, but it was a good one though. You handled it well, and that's the other part about it. Apprehending some of these individuals, the ability and the discernment to know how to approach them, how to tell them, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. We'll get you in and out, and give them that. Your Uncle Mark and your dad actually used to be really good at that, and they'd be able to practically get people to put their hands out for them.
That's why I commend Carter Ford, that his ability to be able to speak calmly during a rough situation.
Right.
And we actually had a, long story short, situation in Louisiana where, I'm ready to go, ready to bust down the door or whatever. And Carter's over there talking to this guy who was having a mental episode, katana in hand. Carter's over there talking to him, and,
Katana sword.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Samurai sword. Yeah.
The defendant had that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, is that bail issue now?
Carter's talking to him.
Come in with us.
Carter's just talking to him through the glass door, trying to calm him down, because this guy is, it's a mental case. And, his ability to do that is like, wow. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's tough. It's good for you. I think that's definitely something that's inherited by you guys. Well, you have that demeanor. I mean, obviously, I've known you guys long since you were kids, and you guys have always been able to be like even killed, never,
de-escalate.
Yeah. Just being able to do it's always been a good thing. So, I know that your success rate is going to be awesome in this industry if it isn't already. How long have you guys been doing this now?
We're going on year 6, almost.
6 years. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
And I came on during year 4, off and on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, good job, dude.
Thank you.
Still hanging out on it.
Oh yeah.
Must be
We've had a
working
rough
out for
time,
you guys. Cool.
They've been a blessing in my life for sure.
You guys better watch out, because I might try to bust into the scene.
Yeah.
Grandpa bail bonds.
Come on in.
Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone coming down, doing this episode. Thanks, Dave, for coming down.
No worries, Carter.
Thanks for the laughs. Memory lane here.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Said I'm about to clean it up, I'm about to roll it up.